Yeah, check 1 2. The homies told me not to address the haters, but I said, you know what? Fuck that. Today we going to address the haters. You know what I'm saying? We were talking about hip hop online like we always do. Whatever you want to call it, where we having arguments or whatever we was doing. Hold on. Let me make sure this mic is cool because we about to go in today. Let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all something. What we talking about here? Are we talking about record sales? Or are we talking about who's famous? Or are we talking about who put out the classic albums? Because these are like three different debates right here. These are three different debates. And I feel like everybody just coming in on the comment section like, yo, you talking about this, you talking about that. First of all, you talking about a different decade. We ain't even talking about that time. We was talking about the 90s. That's how this conversation came out. Let me just say the tweet real quick. So RA went up on Twitter and put this tweet out. He said, 90s rappers were pampered. 70s and 80s MCs built it all, but didn't have the luxuries, resources, or marketing money like 90s rappers. So they get shitted on, and 90 rappers get the credit. Fans don't understand what the pioneers, originators had to go through just to get a song out. Fair enough point, man. Fair enough point. I have to say that I disagree. Other hip-hop enthusiasts cannot disagree with R.A. the Rugged Man. Yeah, man. Nah, I said that simply I felt that rappers today are way more pampered than rappers from the 90s. Hip-hop didn't become mainstream until Eminem. All right. I can see why people are going to take this out of context and people are going to flip this all over ways. And then, yeah, we got people saying LL, the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Slick Rick, Wu-Tang. The list goes on, right? Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I could go on with a list of MCs. I mean, I was sitting here meditating on this for a few days, yo. And, I mean, there's so many artists that I want to go through, like, that we probably forget about. Like, what about Above the Law, Crew, Prince Paul, Master Ace, CNN, didn't even really hear about them, Warren G, okay, CMW, Compton's Most Wanted. I think I had others on here on this list. Yeah, Diggable Planets. You know who they brought up? You know who everybody brought up? MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice. All right, now, first of all, I got a question for y'all. Was MC Hammer really hip-hop? Serious question. Was he really hip-hop? Was the label, I believe he was on Capitol, was the label really trying to market him to a hip-hop audience along with Vanilla Ice? That's a whole nother category in itself. Do I put Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer in the same category as MF Doom or Public Enemy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We ain't gonna get into that. Even the Roots with Questlove that just won the Oscar and the Grammy. But do I ever hear people talk about Black Thought being one of the best, greatest rappers of all time? When do I ever hear Black Thought's name mentioned in the greatest rappers of all time, which we all know that he is, but nobody seems to ever mention Black Thought, right? Get up out of here, man. Y'all want to talk about Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer like that's hip-hop. But you're right, though. We're talking about record sales, right? That's what this whole thing was about. The whole thing was about record sales. Okay. That's what I want to keep this topic on. I want to keep this topic on record sales. I don't want to go off on who had the best lyrics and who had the best beats. That's a whole nother discussion. Today is about album sales and going platinum, and who also went platinum the quickest. Let me get into it. I want to just go big time, man. I'm going big time. So I will say something that I do believe that hip-hop was better in the 90s than it is today. Why? Oh, why? Just because you like that outdated old shit? No, that's not why. The reason why is because I feel that hip-hop, and I think that a lot can agree with this, had more of a message back in those days than it does today. There's not really a message in the music today. I don't think there really is. The biggest selling artists of today, I don't feel really have a message in their music other than, of course, here we go again, J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. Other than those two. But I mean, come on, that's it. Out of all the rappers today and how mainstream and how much hip hop has controlled and taken over the world, you only have but 2 rappers that are on the mainstream platform that are speaking somewhat consciousness in their music. It's got to be more than that. Let's break it down. Let's just start with Nas. We have Illmatic, which is the greatest hip-hop album, if you ask us, of all time, pretty much. I mean, if it's not the greatest album of all time, hip-hop album, and album too, somewhat, but if it's not the greatest hip-hop album of all time, then it's definitely, I would imagine, in most people's top 5. Shout out to MC Search doing the research on this album. MC Search from Third Base, another group that I don't really hear mentioned. I only hear Beastie Boys and Vanilla Ice as far as white rappers, but a lot of people seem to forget to mention MC Search from Third Base. Come on, y'all. Let's talk about hip hop today. Let's talk about hip hop, okay? Because I you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about mainstream, like when it took over the world. And that was what was dominating, what was on the radio, and what was being generated on the airwaves and frequencies across the world. And I'm about to bring up the facts to prove it. Illmatic. Okay, so according to this, it looks like Search is the one that got him signed to Columbia. It looks like it says 63,000 in the first week is what it sold. It was signed April of 94. And then it didn't go platinum until 95. I want to just double check to make sure my notes are correct. According to my notes, and I think this is correct, is that Nas didn't go platinum until 2001. So his album came out in, when was it? 94? 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. So his album didn't go platinum until like 7 years later, man. You gonna call that mainstream? You're going to call that mainstream? When I'm talking mainstream, I'm talking like this is what's on the radio. This is what's winning Grammys. This is what's everywhere. This is what's in movies. It's on commercials. It's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? That didn't really start happening until I said really is when I feel that it took over the world was 99. But let me backtrack that a little bit and let me really say 97. Okay? But yes, 97, 99, kind of same shit. I'm not talking 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, which I believe is the golden era of hip hop. And if you really want to get deep into it, I feel that 95 was pretty much, well, 93 to 95 was like one of the best years in hip hop. And I personally feel that, yeah, after 95, 96, that's when the game started to change. Check this out, though. The final episode for MTV Raps was August 95. Why would they pull the plug on MTV in 95, but then start promoting Eminem on TRL in 99, 2000? Interesting, y'all. Interesting. So they pulled the plug on the real hip hop. Yeah, y'all. I mean, MTV wasn't really portraying hip hop at that time, though, because even when you had your MTV Raps, it was only what? Once every week? I remember I would watch that. It was on a Thursday. And let's be honest, yo, like I've said before and like we've all said, MTV was what was controlling the mainstream. There was nothing else that was really pumping the mainstream. I mean, yeah, if you was on the radio in your local area, that was great. But let's be real, yo. If MTV was playing you, that was across the nation. There was no social media at that time. That's what was across the nation. And let's be honest, man, a lot of these artists were not getting played on MTV.
Radio suckers never play me.
We know who they were playing. They were playing a lot of rock music. That's what they were playing. They were not playing hip hop. So yeah, let me go into the other ones. Tribe Called Quest. Their best albums, Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders. Okay, so it came out in September of 1991. On February 1992, it was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. Exactly a year later, pretty much a year later. When did it go platinum is the question, okay? It did eventually go platinum, but it looks like that when it went platinum was well after that. So, okay, that's my point, y'all, is that we talking like albums going platinum years later. That's not mainstream to me. I mean, that's my point, R.A. That's my point, yo. It ain't mainstream to me if an album goes platinum a year later. Let's go into the woo. This is who you brought up. So you responded. Let's go back to your response. So I think this is how this tweet blew up. Thank you, by the way. I didn't realize that this tweet had hit nearly 100,000 people. I saw it getting retweeted and people commenting, and I was like, damn, I'm down with that. Like, hey, I don't care if motherfuckers are hating. I don't care. Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, help us get to 100,000 subscribers, man. I'm going to try to address every single hater. As long as, I can see you ain't got no mental issues, I'm gonna address you, but I'm going to wait till we get to 100,000. But I do agree that one of the homies, that put in the comment section, he said, if you think hip hop was as big in 1991 as it is in 1999, you're wrong. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say here. Hip hop was not as big in 91 as it is in 99. So RA comes back, right? He says this to me, okay? He said, he called me a stan. That was the other thing. He called me a stan. Like, okay, first of all, I ain't no stan, man. I ain't no fucking stan, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, respect to Eminem. I respect him. But, yo, after the third album, I was just kind of like, all right, cool, respect. I mean, I got family from Detroit. So anybody coming out of Detroit, whether it be Elzai, Dilla, you know what I'm saying, Royce, M, all the groups that I listen to, Danny Brown, anybody coming out the D, I'm giving respect to off the bat. Okay, let me just put that out there. So fuck what y'all talking about, man. Just because we recognize the real don't mean that we a stan. Some of y'all people out there, let me say this real quick, man. Some of y'all people out there, you got two sides of hip hop. Is that you got people that are just so underground that they just hate anything that's mainstream. Like they gonna say, oh, Jay-Z was whack. That last album by, Nas, it was whatever. Cool G Rap was doper. That's what you go on and you say. And you might be right, man. Cool G Rap maybe got him on that track. But let's look at the anthology. You know what I'm saying? Let's look at the anthology of work. Who was more consistent in the booth, homie? Who was dropping more hits? Who had more people want to work with them? That's a part of talent too. Having more people that want to work with you. Don't get mad because you got dropped from Jive or whatever label it was you got dropped from. Oh, let's not make it a personal attack. You're right, because it's respect, dude. I respect your stuff. But it's like, yo, man, sometimes some of y'all be coming off just too fucking underground. Some of y'all are too underground. I saw one of your homies up in the comment section, whether if it was Cage, but then you also got the side of hip hop that's just super mainstream. That's just so mainstream that they just don't even care to hear or even acknowledge what's on, the underground scene, unless it's on the radio or if it's on movies or commercials or at the Super Bowl, etc., Coachella, those types of things. If you ain't performing on that stage, or I haven't heard your stuff on Spotify with 10 million streams, they ain't listening to it. They ain't listening to it. There's a lot of that. So, you got those two sides to hip hop. And I feel that it would be great if both sides could just kind of come together and form this medium. Because, like I said, you got those that are just way too underground. And you got those that are also just way too mainstream. So hip hop is segregated. There you have it. So we were talking about Wu, right? Let's go back into Wu. I don't want to get too far off topic of this because there's so much to dive into. Wu, Forever, one of the greatest hip hop albums ever recorded, no doubt. I went back and I listened to this album, revisited it, and man, I got to tell you, this is an album that I feel that is even more relevant and needed today than it was when it was recorded. If y'all ever have a chance to go back and listen to this album, Wu-Tang Forever, please go back and listen to that album. That album, there was so much knowledge on it, and wow, I'm so glad that we was already up on this in the 90s when it came out. But to even hear it today, the message is even more powerful and makes me stand by even more so of what I meant about how hip-hop today, it's just it's not even hip hop anymore. We can't even call it hip hop anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and put this down right now, is that we need a new genre for what the music is today. I think y'all call it trap, but hip hop was what was done then, and that's what it was. And what's going on today is a different thing, and we're just calling it hip hop, but it's really not. Wu-Tang Forever came out in 97, and then I believe that it went triple, quadruple platinum, or yeah. The album was certified 4 times platinum by the RIAA on October of 97. So yeah, just a few months later, it went quadruple platinum. This album did very well. But like I said, this was about the time that when hip hop started to take off. If you go back and you compare it to their first album, it didn't go platinum until a few years later. It didn't go platinum in like the same year. I don't even believe it went platinum in the second year. So, like I said, we got to go really back in time and dig deep to get all these numbers right. But let's go to Pete Rock and CL Smooth, one of the greatest duos of all time, I believe. Pete Rock inspired Dilla, and he inspired Kanye. Does Pete Rock really get the recognition that he deserves? I mean, come on. He produced The World Is Yours on Nas's Illmatic. I mean, I think he does, but let's talk about album sales. They never went platinum, even though When They Reminisce Over You ranked number 12 on 50 greatest songs of all time by Rolling Stone, but never went platinum and never won Grammys. Can we also ask this? I know some of y'all are going to say that the Grammys don't matter and F the Grammys and whatever, but let me ask y'all this. And one guy said when he won a Grammy, I heard his speech, and I thought that was clever, when he said, none of this stuff matters until you win one. But I will say this. Can we consider it mainstream once the Grammys puts it into a category? And this is really going to trip y'all out, because it did for me. When do you think the Grammys finally put the category of best rap album in their selection? 1995. So we're talking 90s here. Like I said, to go back, y'all, we're talking 90s. I'm not talking about the 80s. Yes, I know that Run DMC went platinum. Yes, I know that the Beastie Boys went platinum. And then let's ask that question again, too. Were the Beastie Boys really just hip-hop? I thought they were a punk band. Isn't that how they started? They started off as a punk band. So they already had that following in the punk market and just decided to start rapping. Because they knew, Rick Rubin, who was down with Russell Simmons. And that's why they started rapping. But, I mean, come on, man. All the people that y'all are bringing up that were selling millions of records in the 80s, other than Run DMC, that's dope, man. That's dope. But was it really mainstream? Was it really selling more than Michael Jackson Thriller? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I was also cleaning out some stuff the other day, and I came across this old Method Man to Cal cassette tape. Check that out. See it right there, or maybe right there is better. Look how they put the time and the creativity into, the cassettes. And how they, put all the title names and the credits and all that and the thank yous. Yeah, this album, To Cal, great album. Definitely is the one that made Method Man famous. Came out in 94. All right. And then once it came out in 94, I mean, he had a couple albums that went platinum after that, but, they was like after 97. Yeah, one was in 98. The others were in 2000s. So, I'm specifically looking at 91 to really 95, but we'll just say 91 to 97, 98. 99 was when it was boom, out of here. It went platinum 7 months later, 1995. The Razor Sharp Mix also won a Grammy Best Rap Performance in 1996. So 96, yeah. I mean, The first rappers that won a Grammy, I think, was it Will Smith? Yep, Will Smith. First rapper to ever win a Grammy. And I'm just going to run through some of these quickly, or as quick as possible, but there's so much detail that each album portrays. So let me go. Outkast, Southern Playalistic Cadillac to Funky Music. Anti-Aliens came out in 1996. The point is that even with a great group like Outkast that came out in the early 90s, but let's say they didn't really become super successful until after Anti-Aliens. But nonetheless, both albums didn't become platinum until a year or so later. Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links, which got 5 mics in the source, which a lot of people consider one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. The great chemistry between Raekwon and Ghostface Killah. Yo, and they also say it's one of the best Wu-Tang solo albums. Do you know that it came out in 95, August, and it looks like it went gold in 95, which is dope and which is really good for an underground, considered somewhat independent release at the time. But according to my notes, if hopefully these are correct, that it didn't go platinum until the year 2009. So you're telling me nearly 10 years later is when that album, Only Built for Cuban Links, went platinum? Here's the one that y'all been waiting for. Dr. Dre, The Chronic. Okay. Came out December of 92, right before Christmas. Great timing, great marketing plan, great strategy. Listen here, it goes platinum a few months later. Yeah, it's considered a new year, 93 of March, but a few months later. So that's not too bad. That could be considered somewhat of a mainstream success. But you know what the real interesting thing is? You know, let's compare that to like rock bands that were coming out at the same time, Nirvana and all that. They was out in the 90s too. These cats were selling 10 million records, and let me get into that later, but let me just run through these real quick. So then you also had Snoop Dogg, who had 800,000 in the first week. So assuming with those numbers, he hit platinum probably within a few months. Another mainstream success. But from what I see, 2015 was when Doggy Style, I believe, went quadruple platinum, which is still great. You know, if you compare that to the numbers of what other artists were selling, you know, that's the thing that's kind of weird. Also, here's the one that we've all been waiting for as well. The Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls. Biggie. Yeah, man. This one is the one, after I did my research on this is what really kind of tripped me out, was that, okay, his first album, Debut, was dropped September of 94, right? All right. I think it went platinum about almost half a year, so whatever, later. All right, like it looks like about 95 is, according to my notes, is when it went platinum. But this is the part about Biggie that really trips me out. When I was doing my research on going platinum for him, which obviously he should have considered one of the greatest rappers of all time, can you believe that he never won a Grammy? He was nominated for a Grammy, and he did not win the Grammy. Now, if hip-hop was truly mainstream at that time, don't you think that Biggie, B.I.G., would have won the Grammy? I don't know. Think about it. So that's why I'm trying to tell you I don't think hip-hop was really mainstream at that time, early, mid-90s. Let's go into others, man. De La Soul, Stakes is High, which is probably their greatest album, 96. This is also one of the albums that introduced Dilla to the hip-hop platform, you know, along with Farside and a few other groups that came out at that time. I believe it was Souls of Mischief that I had in my notes. Yeah, 93 Until Infinity. A lot of these groups, classic albums, never went platinum. Maybe some of them I think went platinum years later. Like, you know, we're talking like almost nearly a decade later, they finally went platinum because people realized that they were classic albums, and as they should. But at the time that they came out, they did not go platinum. But yeah, one of the top ones of them was De La Soul. Stakes is High, which is one of their best albums. Did not go platinum. None of their albums, I think, went platinum. Let's just research that just to make sure. Okay, actually, I take that back. They actually did go platinum. Their album, 3 Feet High and Rising, went platinum. But interesting that Stakes of High, according to the album sales here, looks like it didn't even go gold. Did they ever get the recognition that they deserve? Of course not. We all know that. Let's go on to another classic legendary duel. How about Gangstar? You know what I'm saying? I think their biggest album was Moment of Truth. And according to my notes, it looks like they went gold in May of 98. Okay? So let's just double check that real quick. Some of these I just want to double check, because I just feel like, all right, we gotta make sure here. Yeah, that's the only album that went gold. Can you believe that? So Step Into the Arena, Daily Operation, Hard to Earn. None of these albums even went gold. Let's talk about what's mainstream, man. This is the mid-90s that we're talking about now. If hip-hop was mainstream, don't you think that artists like Gangstar would be in the mainstream? I mean, these guys were getting no radio play, but putting out classics. Yeah, man. Ice Cube, you know what I'm saying? Probably one of the most mainstream rappers to really come from that era. And that's still relevant today. He knew how to flip the script and do everything. Yeah, we don't have to get into it. Ice Cube was one of the very few. But we all know, man. We got Ice Cube. We got Nas. We got Tribe. Okay? We got The Wu. We got Outkast. We got Dr. Dre. We got Snoop Dogg. We got Biggie. Let's put them all at the top. You know what I'm saying? But were these guys selling as much as Lionel Richie? I don't think so. I don't think they were. And that's what I'm talking about. The mainstream is what's dominating all of the airwaves, dominating all of the record sales. I'm not talking about what was mainstream in hip-hop culture, because we could talk about that all day. What I'm talking about was what is mainstream in the whole entire world. Yeah, I mean, we can mention all of the rappers that we're saying, and we could put all of their albums that they put together as a collective, and they still didn't sell as much as Purple Rain did by itself. That album alone by itself sold more records than most rappers. And these were both around the same time. I mean, these were both about the same time, right? Public Enemy. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. That was definitely one of the classic albums, probably one of the best albums of all time. Let me just pull this up real quick. Looks like I have that this came out in 88. So this doesn't really qualify because I'm looking for rappers that we brought up that were around the 90s time. I mean, let's keep in mind, people, this whole conversation started, or debate, or whatever you want to call it, started off of us talking about MCs that are being pampered. And I don't feel like pulling it up right now again, but we all know what it was said, that MCs back then were pampered and that the ones from the 80s paved the way and that the people in the 90s had it good. Now, okay, I'm not disagreeing fully with that. I understand where you're coming from, but I will also say that there's a lot of rappers that came from the 90s that I feel that don't have it good. Like, rappers weren't getting money back then like the way they are now. It seemed like when I was coming up around that time too, even though I know I was a little kid, I was a youngster, but still, I feel like I was gathering the knowledge and I was gathering the information. And to me, it seemed like everybody wanted to play ball. Everybody wanted to be Jordan or Magic. Nobody was really trying to be a rapper at that time because you wasn't making no money in hip hop at that time. You wasn't making no money in hip hop at that time. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. That came out in 88. but it definitely did go platinum for what I believe. So yeah, the album came out of June of 88, and it was certified platinum in 89. Mobb Deep, infamous, classic album, one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. And Q-Tip's production from A Tribe Called Quest on this is just ridiculous. Supposedly, this album didn't go platinum until 2020. Was this because of 8 Mile? Maybe 8 Mile's influence had this, because, you know, the Ultimate Battle Scene, one of the beats used from that album was from this album, Infamous, that was used in the movie 8 Mile. The Fugees, the score. This is probably one of the biggest albums in hip-hop, which is really interesting to me that nobody in the comment section felt, you know, or wanted to bring this one up. I think it went on to sell 22 million worldwide is what I have. And it went diamond pretty quickly, too, as far as I'm concerned as well. Peaking at number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart and being certified 7 times platinum in the United States. But when did it drop? The score dropped in 96. You see, like I said, a lot of this is from 91 to 95. Okay? LL Cool J. I know we brought up LL, but we gotta break down LL Cool J. The ladies love James. Platinum. Everything he's dropped has gone platinum, right? Even albums that he didn't like. This is why he came out with the Mama Said Knock You Out, but Radio went platinum. Bigger and Deffer went platinum. Walking with the Panther, who said that he didn't like. And that was the reason why he came out with the album Mama Said Knock You Out. Platinum. All of these albums going platinum. Okay, we can't deny that, but let's see. 1989 comes out platinum. Now we can go with Mama Said Knock You Out. Let's go with Mama Said Knock You Out because that came out in 1990. It looks like according to this, it went double platinum. The reception was great for this. Release September 1990. Def Jam Records. All right, so you know Russell Simmons had a lot to do with this. That's great when you have somebody like that behind you and pushing your music. Are we going to compare that to Metallica, who has sold more than 125 million records? They sold over 125 million records. And when did they first come out? When did they first drop their album? Let's look that up real quick. You know, see, that's the whole thing, is that you got to have people that listen to more than hip-hop, man. Didn't Common say that in one of his songs? Who, by the way, I don't think ever went platinum as well, if we already covered that. So many rappers to cover, so little time, you know? But, man, you know, it's like he said that in one of his raps, too. Like, look, y'all got to listen to more than just hip-hop. I mean, look at these album sales for Metallica. And when were they dropping records? They were dropping records in the 80s, too, and in the early 90s. So 91, 96. Let's not even look at the 80s. Let's just look at the 90s. They were dropping albums in 91, 96, 97, all the way up until whenever. They haven't stopped. They're going to keep dropping albums. Supposedly, this one album sold nearly 20 million in that year of 91. Another one, 5 million. Another one, 4 million. Another one, 2 million. How many hip-hop artists besides Eminem have done that? And just because you mentioned that, it doesn't mean that you're a stan or this or that, or you don't know what's up with hip-hop. It's just reality, yo. I mean, look it up. We can Google right now. Who is the biggest selling rapper of all time? Eminem. That's who it is. With over 200 million records sold. He's also the 6th best-selling solo music artist of all time. So not just a hip-hop artist, but the best-selling solo music artist of all time as well. I mean, that's just facts, yo. That doesn't have to be... I don't have to say that to say, oh, you're an Eminem fan, and that's why you're saying that because you're a stan. No. That's a fact. That's a fact. Look it up, motherfucker. But I don't know, man. People want to hate, man. People want to hate on the reality. People want to hate on the truth. So, moving along, Cypress Hill, the first Latin hip-hop group to go platinum. They was dropping hits. KRS-One dropped classics. We got interviews with. Please check that out right here. Onyx, back the up, yo. Came out in 93. Now, this album went really well with Slam and all that. You know, you got Wu-Tang that said they got their influence from Onyx, or people say that they did. And then you also got Black Moon that don't really get their props. They came out around the same time. Never really went platinum, you know. Let me see. Did they ever go gold? Because if y'all haven't checked this album out, Into the Stage, y'all need to check that out, man. That is a classic album. When you go through these hip-hop archives and you look this stuff up and you're like, damn, that album never went gold, or that album never went platinum, or they never won a Grammy. And it's just like, damn, man, it's kind of, wow. But y'all want to sit here and talk about, oh, this was mainstream then. Oh, it was, but it never went platinum. Oh, but MC Hammer did. MC Hammer went platinum. Can you believe that Big L, one of the greatest rappers of all time, I believe we can all say that. I think even Jay-Z took a little bit of his style, if you ask me. I think that Jay-Z took a little bit of his style. And Big L never went platinum. Can y'all believe that? Cool G Rap, you know what I'm saying? One of the greatest MCs ever. But you know what the unfortunate thing is that he never went platinum. That's the one thing that's kind of interesting to me. It makes you wonder that if hip-hop was really mainstream at that time, don't you think that rappers like Cool G Rap would have went on to be more recognized and more as one of the hip-hop pioneers, which he is. We ain't taking that away. But, I mean, come on, man. How many mainstream cats out there do we know about are mentioning, you know, G-Rap? All right. You know, we ain't talking about classic albums. I have to keep reiterating this because some people go off track and they say, well, you know, this album came out then and it was considered one of the greatest. And it's like, yeah, okay. I'm not talking about that. What we're talking about here is record sales and mainstream success and what was considered mainstream. Whether you listen to hip hop or you listen to pop or you listen to rock or you listen to jazz or whatever you're listening to. This was something that was on your radar, and this was something that if you weren't buying, that your friends were supporting and they were buying. Bone Thugs and Harmony. Now, these cats went platinum, sold 300K in the first week. Okay? I think their album came out in 97, one of their big ones, and then they went platinum by 98. So here we go. Again, a year later, big artists like this are going platinum. Whereas if you look at the Spotify sales now, I mean, like, let's just look up Spotify artists like Drake, who we know is one of the biggest artists, right? Over 53 million monthly listeners. But I mean, you're right. A lot of people could say, well, that's the power of the internet now. That's the power of the internet, where you can get that many plays in a month, where you couldn't do that back then because you actually had to sell physical copies. Yes, that is true. But let's say with the power of the internet, you can't say that artists were pampered in the 90s. And that's how this whole discussion came about. Plus, a lot of rap was more gangster at that time. Yeah, Cool G Rap, never platinum. Beat Nuts either, never platinum, but should have been. CNN, never platinum, although Nori did go platinum. Okay? The Dog Pound actually went platinum. Warren G did go platinum. I'm just running through some of these real quick so we can know. DJ Quick, Way Too Funky, 92, one of his biggest albums. It did go platinum, but I believe it took about a few years, maybe a year or so. Quick Is the Name, looks like that came out, went platinum. Let's look that up to be sure. Yeah, both went. So he had a lot of albums that went platinum. Quick Is the Name went platinum. Way Too Funky went platinum. And Safe and Sound went platinum. The album debuted and peaked at number 29 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling over 50,000 copies in the first week in America. The album was certified gold 4 months after its release on May 30th. And then the album went on to be platinum 4 years later, July of 1995. So you see, it's like these albums went platinum because hip hop was here to stay, and that people want to go back and retrace the roots and see like, oh, okay, this is what was going on, especially over in a city like Compton. All right, let me go back and let me do the research on that. So who you going to go back and you're going to listen to? Quick. Definitely, like you said, Quick is the name. But it didn't go platinum right away. And thank you again. That's what I'm saying. Hip-hop was not as big in the early 90s as it was in the later 90s. That's because everybody had to take time to hear it. Razzcast, we don't even need to get into that one. Now, I don't know if I really touched this, but Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, that was the game changer. Let's pull that one up real quick. Yeah, Reasonable Doubt, which came out, I believe, in 96. Yeah, June of 96. Okay, this was a game changer because Jay-Z was the one that taught y'all, like, okay, he's going to get down with his partner, with his boy, Dame Dash, and they're going to start this business, and they're going to start making money off this, and they're going to put it out, and F what the labels say, they're going to make this happen regardless. So we can't be mad at, Rockefeller. Damn, man. They definitely came through and they did it. They put it out on their own. They had the distribution with priority. Reasonable Doubt debuted at number 23 on the Billboard 200, on which it charted 18 weeks. It was promoted with 4 singles, including Ain't No Nigga, Can't Knock the Hustle, was certified platinum by the RIAA, and as of 2006 has sold 1.5 million copies in the United States. I would believe that it sold more than that by now. But do you see, an album like this took time for people to grasp it. Just like going back to the Woo, man, 36 Chambers. Took time for people to grasp that. So yeah, we got Vanilla Ice, you know what I'm saying, bringing it home with 15 million. But I think Eminem surpassed that with selling over 200 million. Let's just make sure of that. Yeah, over 200 million. Over 220 million, of course, is what it says here. Wow, man. Sold 154 million certified albums and singles in the United States. That's crazy. So, all right. We talking millions. That's what I'm talking about here. That's what somebody said, like, oh, that's cool. You hit 1 million? Well, how many millions did you hit, really? That's what some people are looking at. And some people define how many millions you hit by what is mainstream and what is not. You didn't hear hip-hop at that time, and that's the point that I'm making here, which so many people try to say that it was mainstream. It was like, no, actually, I don't think that that was really what was controlling the mainstream during that period. And I will also say this, that it might not even have been The Rock either. They say who was really controlling the mainstream at that time was Michael Jackson, Prince, Lionel Richie, Whitney Houston, and Mariah Carey. That's who was really dominating the charts and really selling the records. So that's what the whole conversation is about, is that, oh, okay, in your eyes, you might have saw LL Cool J and Run DMC and whoever else, Slick Rick, EPMD, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, as mainstream artists. But were they really mainstream compared to Lionel Richie or Mariah Carey? I don't know. Rage Against the Machine was one I wanted to get into really quickly. I mean, of course, these guys went platinum, as they should. I think they were controlling the industry. There's so many other hip-hop groups and artists that I would love to go through, but man, I don't even know if we have time to get through all of it. But I'll tell you right now, just some of the names to shout out is like Dub C in the Mad Circle, Third Base, who we already talked about, DOS Effects, 8 Ball, Spice One, yo, remember that? Yo, King T, Keith Murray, E40, one of my favorites right here, the Boogie Monsters. Yeah, man, the Artifacts, the Brat. Man, the list just goes on. There's so many out there that we can talk about, that we could just get into, like what happened with these albums, where were the labels at with these sales, and what was going on. But yeah, do I think that hip-hop was mainstream at that time? I do not think that hip-hop was seriously mainstream at that time. I think that hip-hop became mainstream after 99, 98. That's when you started to hear it on the radio. That's when the Grammys started to acknowledge it. That's when people started to put money up. That's when rappers started to make money and make careers off of this. I don't believe that in the 90s that a lot of rappers were being able to build serious careers off of this where they could take care of themselves and their families at that time. Maybe some of them were, but not the majority, whereas you see now. So, like I said, this whole discussion started off of MCs being pampered. In my opinion, not in the 90s. But let me just go back and read that tweet one more time. But all these groups didn't go platinum until years later. Okay, what did he say to me, though? Biggie, Pac, Wu-Tang, Dre, Snoop, Puffy, okay, Master P. Like, let me go to this one. Let me go to the one that you brought up, though. There was one that you brought up that I want to speak on. Yeah, Tupac. Let's go through Tupac, because we did kind of speak on him. But we got to bring up All Eyes on Me, which is probably Tupac's most successful album, right? It is. It is his most successful album. All Eyes on Me came out in 96. Me Against the World, which I feel is Tupac's best album, came out in 95. So his album, Me Against the World, other than Strictly for My Niggas, went platinum. But Me Against the World definitely went platinum. All Eyes on Me, which is his biggest album, went diamond. All Eyes on Me, though, came out in 96. That's about the time when hip-hop started to change. Like I said, this is when you had the same year when Jay-Z came out with Reasonable Doubt. Biggie was dropping tracks around this time. Like I said, 96 was the time when we saw the shift. It was the time. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, around this time, Biggie was still dropping singles, dropping other stuff with other artists. Just wanted to clarify that and just be sure. So, All Eyes on Me, there was a lot of money behind it. There was a lot of flash. There was a lot of MTV. There was a lot of cameras. There was a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? But it's still kind of interesting that Me Against the World is still only showing as double platinum. It has to have sold more than that, I would believe. Let's just double check that. How many records has Tupac sold? 75 million total. All right, that's good. As he should. But then we got Eminem, who sold over 200 million. So we're like, damn, Eminem actually sold more records than Tupac? Crazy, right? Yeah, man, we just talking stats here right now. Like I said, we're not talking about lyrics. We're not talking about MCs. We're just looking at numbers, and we're looking at stats right here. That's how this whole conversation started. And if I look back and I ask myself, I say that hip-hop is definitely way more mainstream now, and MCs are way more pampered now than they were back then. And I feel that cats had to work a little bit harder for it. But don't get me wrong, and don't say that ain't none of this hard work right here, or that we got to put it down right here for this. Ain't nobody trying to say that, but hey, yo, man, I'm willing to talk about it. You tell me. As far as hip-hop is concerned, though, I feel like there was definitely a lot more knowledge back then. There was definitely a lot more to say back then. And yeah, man, today, who knows, man? You know what I'm saying? Who knows where the hip-hop is going right here? But let's see. Let me see if there's something else that I wanted to cover here. Yeah, I mean, MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice. That's great. You know what I'm saying? These guys were doing it, man. They were back in the early 90s, killing it on the radio and doing all that. But come on, man, let's not say that wasn't really pop. All the artists that we mentioned, all the underground artists that we mentioned that barely even went gold, we got to recognize that, man, and recognize that hip-hop culture didn't really start getting out there or getting on mainstream radio or television until after 97, 98. And then when you had the birth of Eminem, that's when the game ultimately changed. As I mentioned, it started to change in 95, but after Eminem is when it completely changed. That's when he took over MTV, he took over TRL, he even said this in one of his songs, and that's what it was. So, Nobody's trying to say that Eminem was the first rapper to come and do this. Nobody's trying to say that they're a stan or trying to say this or that. All that is trying to be said here is that Eminem was the one that made white America, as I think he has a song about that, where he is introducing hip hop into all of their homes. All right, so like I said, we got Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, Garth Brooks, Whitney Houston, Nirvana, who we brought up earlier, Michael Jackson, Metallica, and, believe it or not, the Backstreet Boys. Just to say for now. But yeah, man, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like, what's really the mainstream? Are we talking about, like, what was the mainstream in hip-hop? Or what was the mainstream all across the world? I was talking about, like, what was hip-hop at that time across the world. And I don't think that there were any rappers, not LL, not Run DMC, not even the Beastie Boys, who I don't consider fully just rap, were selling as much as Michael Jackson or Prince. All the artists that you brought up too, man, by the way, all the artists that you brought up, MC Hammer sold 50 million records. How many copies did Michael Jackson Bad sell? Who's Bad? 35 million copies of just that record alone. Okay, so Michael Jackson Bad, so, and that came out like what? I believe it was 87. Wow, can't even believe that it came out that long ago. How many records has Michael Jackson sold total? Over 400 million. The biggest selling music artist in history. 400 million. Now, what's mainstream? Let's compare millions. So that's what I'm talking about, man. What's really mainstream here? Or are we talking 400 million? I don't know. Y'all tell me.